We're going to move on now to some little key takeouts and the kind of the quick fire round. So these are the pit stop questions. What would you say is the biggest myth about EVs?
There are so many myths about EVs. I wouldn't know where to start. They all centre around the idea that driving an EV is like harder than driving a petrol car. And in some small ways, sometimes it's a bit more difficult. But like in the general sense, in the broad experience, it's so much better and so much easier. So that's how they all culminate, is in this feeling of it being like really difficult, and for some sort of subset of society who are just insane enough to give it a go, which is like such the opposite of the truth.
Yeah.
Of the myths, which is some of the more prevailing, I think maybe perhaps one of the most damaging is that it's not better for the planet. And you see commonly people say, oh, it just moves the emissions around. It's like, it's just scientifically untrue.
Right.
If you want to reduce emissions and you own a vehicle that's petrol or diesel, if you can afford a new vehicle, or if you buy new vehicles, then getting an electric vehicle as your next car is going to massively reduce carbon emissions. It's also going to totally eliminate the gases that come out of your exhaust pipe and slowly poison adults and children around you, which which is a really nice benefit.
Yes.
So that's fundamentally true. And if you don't buy new vehicles, or, you know, there's already now really good deals on used cars. They're becoming way more affordable. You know, I personally don't buy new, so I buy used. So yeah, it's only becoming more and more accessible.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think the whole cleaner city thing is a massive bonus.
Yeah.
So you can walk around and breathe, which is so nice.
Yeah, it's quite helpful.
It is really helpful. Okay, what's one piece of tech you couldn't live without?
Bit unnecessary detail, but we don't have a TV, we have a projector. So for my daughter, I keep her entertained by putting the projector on, and she at the moment is in love with watching Shrek. So if I didn't have that in my life, then, you know, certain moments would be a lot more difficult.
That's fun. That's brilliant. I think you can. There was when my kids were small, I used to love that first thing in the morning when they would like come, you know, paddling through to the bedroom and like watch whatever it was on, but it was Peppa Pig for us.
Yeah, Peppa Pig has been a big part of our lives.
Moved on. We love it.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most? Obviously, you work really at the cutting edge of innovation anyway. But in your mind, what's the most exciting innovation that you think is happening in the automotive space?
The vehicle innovation has to be so important. In that nothing pushes the market forwards more than the vehicles getting better.
Yeah.
To be honest. And like I said at the beginning, it's a shame it's coming from China, but the reality is coming from China. And the cars that are coming out of China are crazy. You know, there's 250 pure EV manufacturers in China. So obviously they're creating some incredible stuff. The battery costs are plummeting, and so therefore the actual, you know, new vehicle costs are plummeting. That's exciting because it's going to drive the rest of the market. I think, from my perspective, obviously, you know, I think about charging every day. We're seeing these opportunities to make money from your vehicle only increase. Mm-hmm. And we've discussed the vehicle to grid concept, but actually before we get to vehicle to grid, there's what's known as grid flexibility, which again, incredibly boring name, but essentially means you just don't charge when the grid doesn't want you to charge.
Yeah.
And that gets handled by these insanely complicated systems and these insanely complicated markets. But the result is that you just basically say, okay, as long as I've got like, I don't know, 90 or 100% charge by 6 or 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., whatever I need, I don't mind if you move that around a bit at night, and National Grid will pay you to do that because that helps them.
Yeah.
For consumers, that's great. For fleets, that's amazing because you multiply the benefit by every vehicle you own. So, you know, we're working with fleets who run thousands of electric vehicles. The opportunity to make money, you could look at it as making money, or you could look at it as reducing charging costs, but it's super exciting from both grid flexibility now, and will only get more exciting from vehicle to grid in 2-3 years as it becomes more developed.
Yeah. I think to your point about the stuff that's coming out of China, they were investing in battery technology 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember I first worked as a freelancer, and I was working with a group of people then, and I didn't see the writing on the wall, but they did.
Yeah.
And they could see where to invest. I think that's the thing. When you invest in innovation early enough out, you're ready and waiting when when you need to land it. You've done all of the R&D way out, so you've now got really efficient battery production, and you're kind of ready to go. So I think that's, congratulations.
And I'd like to think that it's not too late for European OEMs to catch up.
I don't think it is. I think
Yeah.
we're going to see a lot of partnerships happening where you see, it makes sense when we work in technology, we don't build everything ourselves. We actually work where there's partner ecosystems that allow us to kind of partner with people that have accelerated that bit.
Totally.
Or we might have accelerated this bit.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're going to see collaboration. I think there's going to be consolidation in the market in China anyway. There's naturally going to be some
sure.
fall away that won't happen. But so here is our... I suppose the fun side of the Drive Time podcast, and it's all about your drive time. So what we want to do is ask each guest just to expand a little bit on their favourite or most memorable road trip.
All right, awesome. I've definitely got a most memorable road trip, and it is also from my time in Australia.
Nice.
We did a trip so we were living in Melbourne at the time, and we did a trip from Cairns in the very northeast, down the east coast, down to Brisbane over a couple of weeks.
Nice.
And that is insane. So you're just for 2 weeks driving past beautiful, open, empty beaches, and you can stop off at any time and have a swim and be one of probably 5 people on a 10-mile long beach. So yeah, that was incredible. Where would I do next? My wife and I, Emma, we've said for a while we'd like to do West Coast of America. A bit controversial to be promoting America right now, but for the
it's beautiful
for the beauty,
yeah.
For the Californian vibes. That's what we've got in mind. It was originally going to be a convertible Mustang, obviously, as any sort of basic traveller would do. But yeah, obviously now we would go for an electric vehicle. So yeah.
I'd love to do that whole kind of Winnebago road trip type thing on the west coast of America. I agree with you. So Australia, why would you come back from that? Sorry, but like what?
That's such a good question. I think the answer is simply family and friends. Otherwise, you'd stay there forever.
Yeah. I think you would. It's on my list of places to go. A few of my friends' I've got a couple of friends whose kids have gone out there travelling, and it just
it's so nice.
It feels like it's the place to go. And then one final question. We're recording in the home of the immersive sound experience at Spiritland, which is great. So they have the biggest speakers outside of here. So we can't play it right now, but we're asking all of our guests, which would be your either soundtrack recommendation, either for a road trip and it could be music or it could be podcasts. So what do you normally put on in the car if you're driving anywhere, Charlie?
Okay. I am a big fan of podcasts, so it's often a podcast. Emma and I have been listening to a true crime podcast recently, which we got well stuck into, and it does make journeys disappear, if that's what you're looking for. It's called The Girlfriends, actually.
I've heard, interesting.
7 out of 10. It was entertaining. Music-wise, always changes, but we also recently went to see a band called Maribou State in Ali Pali, which was good fun, and since then I've not stopped listening to them on repeat. So
nice.
Yeah. What
What kind of vibe is I've never heard of them, so tell me.
I think they sort of jokingly call themselves like relaxed lift music, but I guess you would call it. I think it's probably comes under the genre of house,
right?
But it's got more of like an interesting vibe than just like standard house.
So we'll drop a link to Maribou State in the podcast so anyone can have a listen. Yeah. What we want to do is build up a little soundtrack for guests.
That's nice.
And then so we can on your road trip, or we can either tag the podcast that you listen to, and because I'm the same, I do listen to podcasts a lot, and I think it's a really good way of learning something.
Yeah.
Well, I do it when I walk the dog. Actually, I always have something in my ear and I kind of joke and say it's either personal growth or something else.
Yeah.
But
well, if I'm allowed to recommend a second, which is way more useful than The Girlfriends,
do it.
Is Acquired.
Okay.
Yeah, which is essentially business history episodes, which I never thought I'd be into, but it turns out it's insanely good. So they spend 3-4 hours an episode digging into the background. Sometimes they're in 2 or 3 parts for certain companies. And I listen to that on my commute.
Nice.
It's awesome.
Excellent. I'll give that a listen. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great fun. Thank you.